Hello and welcome to episode 9, part 2 of MMM Sisters Stories podcast. In this episode, Dr. Nadia Ramatar continues her conversation with Sister Mary O'Malley with more stories about her valuable work in Kenya. We hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for listening.
Definitely when people see how they could manage their lives better and more profitably, they won't go the way of being trafficked if they have something in their own country. And very often they go because they're cheated, and everyone wants to make their lives better. We see that even in our history of our own country. They want to improve life for themselves, and once they get into a small business, some of them can take it really far. And I have always found that those who have benefited themselves through an income generating activity, a small business as they call it, they can teach, they can send their children to school, they can afford their own housing and provisions for the family and school fees themselves. That is the major way that this is done. I know I've educated over 500 children, so it's that part of it is hard because I see the value maybe some other people don't. But I think I've explained to you why giving a people a livelihood changes their lives for them. Because today you can get no place without education, and in the African countries, education and technology is moving fast, and it means that they have to be up with the rest of the world, or if they languish in poverty, they won't achieve anything for themselves, and you always have to think of the next generation. Last year we had over 1,800 workshops in schools, in mosques, in churches, every kind of school, every out of school youths groups. And we reached over 46,000 people. That maybe sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but I'm still convinced that giving people the information, then they can do something about it themselves. So that's how we reach children and people in slums and all kinds of people in women's groups. And what saddens me is that if we don't do this, then these children will be the target of the traffickers in just a few short years from now. And I think I've dealt enough with the stories they've given us, changing lives for people and resisting the push factors of the poverty is the greatest way we can make a difference. Otherwise, and equally, they're pushed by what they're experiencing and they're pulled by what they think is a major opportunity, or referred to as going for greener pastures. And we know what that means. The greener pastures are not there, and they find themselves in a desert of all the factors that play against them, and long hours and beatings and sexual exploitation of the women is very, very rampant. And it all ends up being a very nasty experience, and people return. They're expected to have money, but in actual fact, they're more stigmatized now than ever. They come back with nothing, and then they find themselves stigmatized by their own people, who think that they have money to build houses, to buy land, and all the other things that people would dream about. And I recall one woman, she was so embarrassed, so stigmatized, she couldn't even come out of her tin house. It was really just a few sheets of galvanized where she was living. And one of her neighbours had said, can I bring you to the house and see what she will say? And I could see that she was really suicidal. So we talked a long time and talked about proposals, and she was still quite adamant that she couldn't move on with life. And then in the end, she said, how can I leave my 2-year-old twin boys motherless? They're fatherless already. How can I leave them motherless? And I think it was that statement coming from herself that made all the difference, that she knew if she couldn't, if you like, snap out of this, she had come through a very painful journey, but she was able to see and to say how she could really change her life around. I suppose I had encouraged her also, and showed her some options, and to get a livelihood, get the kids to school, would make the greatest difference for her. And later on then she would have to do her best in her business to continue to take them to school. If not, what would happen to those 2 little boys? It's a long road, but when people receive encouragement and they're shown a way, then they can definitely use all the initiative they had. I often think of people who are trafficked, that they have major initiative insofar as they see an opportunity, they go to grab it. But unfortunately, it's a rotten apple that they have taken on to bite, and it doesn't work out. And there are so many situations where they leave hardship, they meet worse hardship and cruelty, and then they come back to pretty much nothing. And what I learned also is that it's not enough to set this man or woman up with a livelihood if what you give them is so small that that mother turns around to feed her children. Because if she doesn't feed them, if she doesn't feed them, then they have no peace. They are not able to go to school, and things are harsh out there. The provision of food for the children at that dire moment she's going through is, first of all, to, yes, give her money that she can feed them that day and up to the end of the month, but also that she can make a livelihood for herself. That's the most important. If she's able to make a livelihood, then she has little profits. She's able to restock her business again. And that's always wonderful news, and very exciting for me also to see that when people are given the initiative and told the truth, then it makes all the difference for them. So why do we make such emphasis on creating awareness? It's to create the awareness that people can know in advance what's happening. If they go then, I had never met anybody coming back who was happy about what happened to them in the course of their exile. It can be some for a few months, but it can be some there for years. And I cannot imagine myself working 7 days a week for over 20 hours a day. Something has to snap. And I've never yet, in all my experiences working with people at this level, never met anybody with less than 20 hours a day. They're expected to be first in the morning out, wash the cars, last to bed in the night after late cooking and so many other chores. And some families will even take them around to 2 or 3 other houses of relatives to do cleaning. So it's It's modern day slavery. That's all I would say about it. It's there. We think that slavery ended, but it's not ended. It's more ripe and rampant today than ever in the past.
Let's go to, what is your prayer for the world? What would you most like to see happen in the world?
Well, I can say straight away what I would like to see is a more equal distribution of resources. There are billionaires in Kenya. I think maybe more sponsorships and more opportunities given to people. What I try to do also at this stage in my 19 years in human trafficking is when they finish secondary school and need to move on to university or some kind of a technical college, that if I can sponsor them to move a little further, it makes all the difference. And at the moment in our office, we have a young lady. I took her through secondary school. She was called to the Kenyan Institute of Training and did nutrition studies. And now she's back in our office and she's doing a degree at the weekend. So we have her for 4 days a week, and she is one of the ones I could say at this moment. She comes to mind the first who will make a difference in the life of her own family, and she's very happy, and she knows she had an opportunity that she would not otherwise have. There were factors in her family background which I don't want to go into at this moment, but there were factors that militated against even getting food. And she told me when I was taking her through secondary school, and normally I would give them at that stage 1,500 shillings was enough for their shopping and personal items, especially for girls. And what she only told me recently, what she used to do was try and minimize what she needed to get to school and leave her mother with 1,000 shillings for food. So this was a huge sacrifice for a schoolgirl. But they seem to be a very united family, and the mother is a single mother family, and those are the ones who find it the hardest. And then if they have HIV thrown into it, the equation, life can be extremely, extremely difficult for them. But I can't forget that example of how she, as a youngster, when, youth in general, we see them and we experienced it ourselves, they can never get a half enough money. But to give her mother 2/3 of it just to feed the others blew me apart, really. So that's what I would like to see happen in the world and happen in Kenya. But it seems a long way off in most cases. So if we can bring up the people who are the most sinned against, if you like the victims of trafficking and so on, if they can be empowered through education, through sponsorships, income generating, they will make a difference. I've no doubt about that. It may be like a drop in the ocean, but if I don't contribute to the drop in the ocean, something, it won't happen. And if more people did it, that's where I can see this opportunity for people anywhere. And there are people in Ireland who have made a big difference and enabled me to do what I'm doing. And that is really a pleasure to work in in those circumstances. Give feedback, as I'm sharing now with you, is all important. There's endless scope. And if we can make a difference to the most needy and provide them with the necessary, whatever it is, to heal their lives again. A lot of these young women coming back and mothers, and like all the ones I've spoken about, they need counselling afterwards to help to get over their bad experiences. Or when I mentioned the option of engaging with counselling, professional counselling, someone would say, "Oh, I've talked to you now, I will be okay." And they are okay because you've shown them a way forward out of the cruel and almost impossible dilemma that they find themselves in. So it's a service to heal and to change lives. And I know I am changing lives, even if I say it myself. I just thank God has enabled me to do that, and inspired me really to do. One last thing really I want to say is that I've always been in favour of teaching aids to bring it home to people. So I've done training manuals, I think I mentioned it. I do some flyers. And in this training manual, you've seen it, I think. It's a pictorial explanation, and like cartoon really, but it enables people to see what's happening. And I remember walking down where I live. It's only just 10 minutes to a very vast slum that extends for miles. And I saw a group gathered around a woman who was selling vegetables there on the pavement. And I asked somebody on the edge of the pavement, what's happening? Because it can be somebody who has been killed, that you can come across, or badly injured. And that can present its own problems. They said, no, she has a book, we want to see what she's telling us. So it was my manual, and there she was. The group gathered around her, sharing what was happening. So to me, it proved to me that the visual was so important. And for me, I've just seen that the visual thing is so important. When I first did a big rescue, really, of neglected victims in a mainly Muslim area, closest to the central business district, they were the ones who had, it seems, suffered most. And what they couldn't understand, or they grappled with it at first, they said, none of our own people ever assisted us. And here we have this Christian woman coming. And one of them in the business she started, she later went on to put up in front of her, I won't give the real name now, but you won't remember it anyway. If I say Amina's kitchen. So buying the instruments for the cooking. And she proudly said to me, I'm even registered now with the city council. So that to me is really, I think, helping people to progress. Some people say I'm a high achiever, but it's for people. It's not for myself. And out of my time with that big group of people, of the mainly Muslim ladies, their sufferings and what they had been through pushed me to write The Way of the Cross. And I remember having the stories stashed away, and something was always pushing me. Mary, work on that. It has something in it. And I did, and I made The Way of the Cross. Because I met people on the way of the cross. There was nothing else you could say about it. If Jesus fell, they had fallen very, very deeply also. They had fallen and they saw no way out. And so maybe I'm the Veronica who wiped the face, or Simon. But I don't say that in a boastful way. I'm happy to be used. And my philosophy is, if I can do this, you can do it better. Because the people I train to be trainers of others, they are the ones who will make it possible to reach out to other people. And even the lady selling her vegetables and a group around her, it made me laugh, but it also encouraged me.
Thank you for listening. Tune in again for more sister stories.